Hi, this is Jerry Covella, host of From Dreams to Reality, a business tale podcast. This week, we are joined by the amazing, and I do say amazing, Gary Giallonardo. He's the owner of The Short List, a talent research and acquisition company headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Gary's doing some amazing work in what is a critical service for business owners who are intent on putting the right people in the right seats at the right time in their workplace. Gary, my friend, welcome. We're glad to have you on our podcast.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. Appreciate it very much.
Full disclosure, Gary and I have spent some time really understanding his business, and quite frankly, I find it very intriguing. So we're going to share some insights about what he does and what makes him special in, again, what is a critical activity for some businesses. They are always looking for the best talent, and Gary's the guy that delivers that. So, Gary, let's kick this off. Tell us a little bit about your business. How long have you been in business, and what got you into talent research and acquisition?
Sure. Well, let's start with, I actually, you're located in New Jersey. I'm in Pittsburgh, as we talked about. I actually went to college in New Jersey, have my engineering degree. So I've mostly been in marketing and sales primarily in my career. About 14, 15 of the first years have been with large corporations. In fact, my family and I even had an opportunity to have an expat assignment over in Europe for about 3 years with the last big corporation I was with that just gave us just terrific perspective. But after the 15 years basically with the big companies, I just wanted to do more on my own. So I decided to go on my own in about the 2000 timeframe and created what now people would call fractional CMO work. I mean, back in 2000, nobody knew what a fractional was. And so a chief marketing officer. And I did that work with companies, small to medium size, B2B, heavy into the manufacturing space or industrial space. Did that for about a little over 20 years. And so I'd be working with companies on a 1 day a week for a year, or 2 days a week for 6 months, or a day a quarter, basically. That was the board level work with certain companies. And I really enjoyed the type of work, the diversity, helping them develop strategy, and then working with them to actually implement the strategy and get real results instead of just developing a plan. So it was really through the 20 plus years of doing the business development advising, this fractional CMO type of work for these small companies, that I started seeing patterns in data. And the patterns were basically that I'd have numerous presidents, CEOs who I was typically reporting to would say the same thing, and are very similar things. And that was, we can't find an X type of person in this geographic area. And well, why don't you use a typical recruiter, either a contingent or retained executive search? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't like the fee structure. And okay, that's fine. Well, how are you doing it on your own? Well, not doing real well. So, so, and they'd say, I just need somebody basically to help me identify the qualified within a local geographic area, and of the qualified, who are the interested, and we can take it from there. We don't need a recruiter to stick with us all the way through the hire. And so it was a couple things that they told me. Again, not just one person, but multiple people were saying very similar things, plus a number of other things. And that was really the base for me of all of these issues that I created the short list from scratch. So yeah, started the short list, finished up about a little over 3 years ago, my market development or business development advisory, and then got into the short list in 2022.
It's a great time, in my mind, to be in your type of industry because I can tell you, working with my clients, the vast majority of them are always saying the same thing. You just can't find good people anymore. And maybe it takes a little extra work and a little extra expertise, but my response is there are a ton of good people out there. Maybe we need to find the way to get them to our door. And I know, talking to you, you have a very precise and successful model that you've applied to really help people see the best of the best at their door. So I wanted I know we had talked previously a bit about the emergence of AI. And so everybody's using AI because it's a fantastic remedy for all that ails us. So, including client acquisition, you can snap your fingers and you'll have that perfect person at your door. And I did post a blog last week on LinkedIn specific to that topic because I looked at that and I'm thinking, you know what? I think there's something missing there. And I know talking to you, we talked about the human touch. There are aspects of a individual that AI cannot define. And it's good to have that human touch in there. So let's talk a little bit about this emergence of AI and how do you see that impacting your world and how it either complements you or you can complement AI in a positive way.
I break up the whole recruiting process into four main areas, and other people who've been at this much longer than me can get into much more detail. But for me, the four different areas are the discovery phase, which is basically it's creating the job description. It's you had mentioned this earlier. It's identifying the seats in the bus, and then who are the types of individuals needed for the characteristics needed for that specific seat on the bus. So that's what I would consider the discovery phase, really understanding and creating the job description. Then there's the sourcing qualified candidates, and that's basically trying to identify not just people who are looking for jobs, but also what's called passive candidates, people who aren't looking but might be interested. In fact, if the right value proposition comes their way. And so I see that sourcing qualified candidates as having a reactive component and a proactive component. And the reactive component is it's a company posting a job, for instance, and then getting resumes that would come back, people interested. I think AI is doing an unbelievable job in being able to vet resumes and be able to take huge quantities and be able to cut to the essence of what a company is actually looking for much faster than humans can do it. But then there's a proactive element. The proactive element to me is it goes back to the term I used before, which is finding passive candidates. Those are people who aren't necessarily looking. And what I found is with me being in the business of really trying to find passive, qualified, and interested candidates is that AI can scratch the surface on finding very specific types of people with very specific characteristics I'm looking for in a very defined geographic area, but it's not complete. It's not thorough. It's not in depth. And that's where the human touch absolutely comes in is finding, really digging deep to find all the right candidates. Now, AI is getting much, much better. In fact, over the past year, it's amazing because I'll test the waters basically every month or so, and just to see, how AI is doing in this area and getting much, much better. But still, I would consider it not necessarily ready for 100% turning it over to AI to do that. And then there's two other levels in or the recruiting process for two other main areas, the vetting interested candidates, and then also the hiring, onboard, and retention. And with the vetting interested candidates, there's the interviewing process, which you said before, Jerry, again, about the human touch. It's extremely important, in fact, that you're finding the human nuances, in fact, in vetting candidates that I don't think AI can do it as well. Mannerisms, inflections, eye movements. What are they looking at? Are they looking at their shoelaces, or are they looking straight in your eyes, basically, when they're addressing your questions? But AI, I think, is doing better and better in doing personality assessments. It could be not necessarily intelligence tests, but it's basically AI is getting much, much better in fitting people and their traits, characteristics, the important things about them, but tying that in with very specific jobs. So hiring, onboarding, retention, I think that's, a combination of both people skill set and AI. But where I am, I'm heavy into the type of business I have with a short list is heavy into the sourcing qualified candidates. And for me, AI is there. It's helpful in identifying certain things like, hey, let's, tweak the reach out message. In fact, to this person in this industry for this type of position, how would they best receive the message? And AI is helpful for me in doing that type of thing. And but otherwise, with the type of work I do as a talent sourcer, a lot of human touch at this point in time.
Yeah, you can't replace the energy of interaction between two human beings. Like I said, the vetting process, you want to share that energy and make sure you've got that right person. So good stuff for sure. How would you describe your ideal client? Who are the companies that really resonate with what you're doing?
They're typically small to medium sized companies. And what I mean by that is, people in the HR world typically talk about number of employees. I came from the marketing and sales world, not HR, so I talk typically in revenues, annual revenues. So I'm looking at companies typically in the, I'd say $8 to $10 million annual revenues on the low end, upwards of about $100 million in sales. And so that's my ideal size of company, industry agnostic. It doesn't matter if it's a wealth management company or if it's a small manufacturer, whatever, a service provider, they're fair game for me. But people who are, or companies who are having a very difficult time trying to find very specific types of mid to upper level talent. So it's not necessarily the president CEO, but it could be a person on their leadership team. The CFO, the VP of marketing and sales, the director of operations, that level, and maybe a step or two below. And but not necessarily entry level, not especially in the manufacturing world. It's not um, the certified welder or the CNC machinist type of folks. It's really the white collar office type of worker, but that mid to upper level. And so that's the type of company, the type of position, but it's really for leadership teams and hiring managers who really, as I mentioned, are having a very, very difficult time trying to find that specific talent because of a couple things. One is they just don't have, I mean, they might know how to find passive candidates, but then again, they might not know how to do a deep dive to be able to identify all the stones to turn over to try to find the interested or the qualified and the interested. But they might not have the time to do it. And so that's why, for me, outsourcing to a professional, somebody that's paid to do this type of things, that knows a couple of the tricks of the trade to be able to cut to the chase to try to find that specific pool of that X type of talent that you're looking for within a given geographic area. That's what I'm looking for. People with pain, the pain points of we can't find this specific type of talent, and we need them now. And that's the great, prospect for me.
And the time is of the essence too when you're filling those types of positions too. So lost
Yep.
time equates to lost revenue.
Yep.
So if there's an efficient way to make this happen, and I know you talk about that a lot, how can we make this happen? So it is an efficient process that gets the right person in front of you. That's essential. How about as far as what regions do you serve? I would suggest probably with technology you serve anywhere in the country, if not the world.
That's absolutely right, Jerry. In fact, in starting just a little over 3 years ago, we now have done searches in 8 states and growing. And so it's pretty exciting about that because the types of work I'm doing, what I need a good, for instance, video, video link like Zoom or Teams for me is unbelievably important. I don't necessarily have to go to Texas or California or Arkansas or North Carolina. And these are some of the states I've done done searches in. I just need a great, basically access to the internet, really a good line. And for me, I'm a market researcher that's converted to a talent doing talent researching. And so I can do this from here. I don't need to be with the client, even when it comes to the initial discovery of understanding what they're really looking for in the person within what geographic area. For me, it's extremely important to, be able to do this as efficiently as possible over a video link. So yeah, all the way across the United States. Just tell me what you need. And for me, I'm looking for just like I mentioned, the passive candidates. These are, primarily people who are already employed, not necessarily people unemployed or people who are looking, but I'm just looking for the best talent anywhere within that set geographic area that the customer wants. And typically, because I'm looking for people in the mid level to, again, not necessarily the present CEO, but people on their leadership team, is that typically the present CEO doesn't want to do a relocation. So therefore, it's extremely important for me to try to find somebody within a reasonable drive distance if it's an on-site type of position. Most of the positions I'm working or I've worked on and I believe will continue working on are on site, although I've done hybrids and I've done total remotes as well. But the shortlist process really digs deep within a whatever a customer defines as a reasonable drive location. For instance, I've done a search in Redwood City, California for a customer, and to them, a reasonable drive distance was an hour and 15 minutes within that. I also did a search in Indiana, a small town in Indiana, and for them, a reasonable drive radius basically was 15 minutes. And so just tell me what you want. And that's really what I'm trying to do is pull all the information out of my clients. Just tell me the parameters, all the parameters, and just let me go.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
what it is. Define a qualified and or qualified and closely qualified and the interested out of that group of the qualified.
And I can tell you, I can see the passion in you for what you do. You love what you do, which, from a coaching perspective, you've got to love what you do. So I'm sure you're doing some amazing things.
Well,
So
thanks, Sherry. I do. Thank you. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So what's the future look like for Gary and your business?
Well, I really see a bright future, and the reason is because probably the biggest challenge I've had when I first got started, and I still have that challenge, but it's becoming less and less as time goes on, is that it's conveying to people that there is a different way to do search. That it's not necessarily conventional, retained or contingent search, although that's been around for quite some time and successful, for quite some time. But so the biggest challenge for me is to really identify people who see the value that it's something different. And so what I have been working on doing is once I find, people who really understand it and then have an opportunity for me is looking for repeat customers and looking for repeat referral sources. That to me is extremely important. And so over time, I'm starting to have, not starting to, but for the past year and a half, I've been having multiple searches going on simultaneously. And for me, that's terrific. Now, I'll still, because I am a startup or I consider myself a startup, will still have dry periods. However, it's not uncommon now to have two, three, four searches at a time. For me right now, it's just me, but that's not the intent. It's to grow this into a multi-person business. The future is bright that I can see right now, Jared. So thanks for asking
Yep,
that.
I'm sure it is. You're doing some great things, Gary. So how can people get in touch with you? Learn more about the short list.
I have a very basic website, but very easy to understand. And the website is shortlistcandidates.com. Shortlistcandidates.com. My email address, feel free to contact me. It's garyg@shortlistcandidates.com. And then I have a LinkedIn profile. It's Gary Giallonardo. And I'm sure, Jerry, you'll have how to spell that. I have a tough time spelling it myself, but It's Gary Giallonardo at LinkedIn, but I also have the shortlist has its own LinkedIn profile as well. And so
Okay.
that's probably the best way. But my cell phone number is on the website. It's also on my LinkedIn profile. People can call me, text me, anyway. I communicate in any way, in mails, you name it. So
Great, great. And there you
thanks.
have it, Gary Giallonardo from the short list. That's our podcast for today. Again, I thank Gary for being a part of today's conversation, and look for us again on our next episode of From Dreams to Reality, a Business Tale podcast. This is Jerry Covella. Have a good day.